Hello. So, I haven't prepared what I'm going to say. I'm just going to start talking. Basically, the idea is that I'm going to try to explain the truth from my perspective. Uh, yeah. So, so yeah. So I guess the good place to start is QAnon or the election. Sort of what's going on. What's going on in the world, and yeah, how can I best explain? It's a difficult thing. And who am I talking to? I'm talking to, I guess, my friends and family, mainly. But in anybody online who's interested, it's a difficult story to tell. So, yeah, like it's a year and a half ago, I was an atheist, and I'm not anymore. Blessings be to Jesus Christ, all glory to Him. So it's been a big change, but yeah, it's been quite a story. So, I guess it starts off. I was following the election in America, and just following Donald Trump and Hillary, and I didn't know anything about either of them when I first started looking. And I started following it when Trump won the primaries for the Republican Party. So that was when I started looking. And I sort of knew that there was some corruption and stuff going on, but I didn't know that much about it. And after looking into it a bit, I sort of learned that Hillary Clinton was a bit evil. And yeah, so I was a Trump supporter going into the election, not so much based off Trump is a good guy, but more based off Hillary's pure evil and she's going to start World War III or something. So that was my perspective. And then, the media was very negative towards Trump, and I was expecting that to end after the election because I assumed that, the media are pro-Clinton, so they're doing their bit to help her win the election, and I assumed that would stop. I was surprised when it didn't post-election, and with all the protests and things. I thought it would calm down. It didn't. Then it would have been early 2018, I found QAnon. I was following the everything that was going on, and I found QAnon and started looking into that. And I don't know when you're going to be watching this, so if things have started to happen, then you'll know who QAnon is. And I guess there's two groups of people I want to talk to in this video. One of them's the Q people, and one of them is the people who don't know anything. So to the people who don't know anything, QAnon is an online personality, let's say, an anonymous personality who started posting on 4chan in October of 2017 and then moved to 8chan later, posting about the goings-on behind the scenes, you might say, in America, in the Trump administration, and sort of the wheelings and dealings behind the scenes with regards to the corruption and draining the swamp and that type of thing. And initially it was I thought it was just about the Hillary Clinton stuff. I already knew that she was corrupt, sort of the deleted emails and Benghazi and a whole bunch of other things, uranium and uranium one, and a bunch of things that I knew there was some corruption there. So that's sort of what got me in, because this was the continuation of that. And this is, Trump keeping his promise to clean things up, what I thought at the time. And then, of course, it blew out a bit. And as it turns out, there's a bit more corruption there than I first thought. And initially, by April or so, I was starting to suspect, because Q was interesting stuff, let's say, and the research boards on 8chan were very interesting. There's a lot of information coming out, not just from Q. Q is sort of the start of it, I guess. Like, the questions that Q would ask and the crumbs that Q would drop. within the basis of further research by the people on the chans and for doing my own research. But there's a lot of information coming out, and my perspective of the world was quite substantially changed during that time. I initially thought that Q was God or something from God, just because it was such it's all this information getting revealed, and it was quite intelligent, had all these all the time codes meaning different things and all these links to different things, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And that was what led me. I wasn't particularly happy at the time, let's say, not in a particularly good place. So I ended up accepting Jesus as my savior at that point. And then about April or so, I asked for his spirit, and he gave it to me. And it's quite a journey since then. Jumping headfirst down the rabbit hole and not yet hitting the bottom over a year later. But I'm getting there, I think, but I'm not expecting to actually hit the bottom. So yeah, if you don't know who Q is basically an anonymous source that's been posting information, and people online, mainly on 8chan, have been doing research into the corruption in America, linked to, basically, the story is there's a satanic cabal who have been running the world. This is the Q, from the Q's perspective, and like the Q people's perspective, this is a satanic cabal who have been running the world for a long time. And Trump and the military intelligence, and maybe people in the NSA as well. This is the official story, taking it down. But I don't think this is what is actually happening. I think it's way deeper than that, and I don't think Q is good, and I'm going to tell you a bit about that in this video. So yeah, I was on the bandwagon, where we go all that stuff, light to dark. In May last year, I told everybody I knew, there's this Q thing happening. It's going to be these big revelations, so just be ready for it, and ask me if you've got any questions, but don't freak out. That's what I thought at the time. It's expanded since then. The scope has expanded, due mainly to the research that started looking into Q topics, but then it's expanded, and I give credit to Jesus for helping with the revelations. I read the Bible, and the Q stuff. It's an elaborate deception, and I need to explain this carefully, because all the Q people are going to be calling me a shill at this point. It's not a deception in the sense that the stuff that's coming out isn't real. It is. There's people who worship Satan, and the people all the way to the top, and there's child trafficking going on, human trafficking going on. There's the evil banking cartels, and all the information that's come out, pretty much broadly speaking, all of the conspiracy stuff, it's true. That's true, but it's way deeper than that. And this is what made me start to think twice about what was going on. It was like, okay, there's this cult, this worldwide cult, and all of the top people, I don't know if you're aware, Q people, Q person, I don't know if you're aware, but it's not just America, and it's not just the people in government, it's also actors, and it's also musicians, and it's also law enforcement, and it's also religions, the Catholic Church, for example. It's the bankers. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. It's a very, very big, very, very big conspiracy. And so I started to think, well, how could Trump not be involved? He was a celebrity, billionaire in New York. He's got connections to all these people, and you don't make it. You don't make it in this system. You certainly don't become president. The cover story that existed, where it's like, he's just fed up and he wants to come in and do right. He's made his fortune, and he just wants to fix the country because he's a patriot and all this, and he's with God, and this is God sending Trump to save America. Like, it's just a bit too. It was a stretch. So I started to suspect mid last year that it was a bit of a stretch, and the world's run by Satan. Satan's real. I don't know if you're aware of that. It surprises me, actually. There are a lot of Christians who have been taken in by this, and I think for some reason, they obviously don't read the Bible, because if you compare what Q says to what the Bible says, like for example, most people are good. That's not a Christian teaching. I mean, you know if you're a Christian that most people aren't good. We're all sinners, every single one of us. And Q talks about the wizards and warlocks. Inside term. This is the inside term of the people doing this. Well, wizards and warlocks are bad. You would know this if you're Christian, surely. It's weird, and there's other stuff too, but it surprises me that there are so many Christians. And with Trump as well. Trump waves the Bible around and says, pretends he's a Christian. He's had 3 marriages. He's a billionaire. He puts his name on all these buildings around. He's not humble. He doesn't ask for forgiveness. There's an interview, I think it's Jake Tapper or something. He doesn't ask for forgiveness, and there's a whole list of things. He's not a godly man. Yes, God is in complete control, and God uses people, but God used Hitler as well. Yeah, so it's just strange. People don't know their history, and Q basically is pointing at everything out. He's outlining the plan. There's going to be a military dictatorship. It's going to be exactly the same as, I think Q even pointed this out, how Antifa are exactly the same as the communists. They've got the same logo pretty much as the communists in Germany. People should know their history. The communists in Germany didn't win. They lost, and the fascists came in. And I don't think that Trump is a fascist exactly. Not exactly. I think what's happening is a bit different to that. But yeah, anyway, where do I go from here? Yeah, so Q's not good. What I think is happening is, it's the Hegelian dialectic. It's the new Hegelian dialectic. What we've got here is you had the Republicans versus the Democrats, and that was, both sides were corrupt. You know that now. Everybody knows that, right? The Democrats are corrupt. The Republicans are corrupt. It's just the same in every country. But now, well, it's what I think is basically the way to summarize would be Satan versus Lucifer. So you've got these Satan worshippers, and they're going to get taken down by the people who worship Lucifer. And of course, Satan and Lucifer are the same person. But dark to light, out with the Satan, in with the Lucifer, and everybody thinks that'll be great, and it's all the New Age religious stuff that goes along with that, and you can be God, and if only we can get rid of these bad people who are running the country, we can then do things well, because it's just these evil people who have been holding us back, and once our potential is realized, and on the 8chan boards there's all of the lies and stuff about indigo children, and the quantum consciousness, and there's a thread there about Thoth, the Egyptian god, and people are talking to someone claiming to be Thoth, and there's all this weird Luciferian ideology mixed in with Q and on the Q boards. And it's funny that it's all anonymous on the Q boards, right? So yeah, there are shills on there, as in there are people causing trouble on the board, but it's completely managed. You don't know who's giving you the information. I think it's all of the same people. When you're on the Q boards and there's some really good detailed post will come up, and it'll seem to answer a lot of questions and fit in, and be well written, and it's there's a really cool anon out there, and they've done some research and come up with some really good information. It's it's the same people. It's the same people giving you the information, and they're leading you to Lucifer is what they're doing. There is this great awakening, and where we go one, we go all. Well, there's a bit of a contrast, isn't it, to the book of Revelation, and narrow is the path that leads to salvation, and broad is the way that leads to destruction or damnation. I can't remember the exact wording, but there's a pretty big contrast here. If you're a Christian, you should have no excuse, basically. If you're a Christian, you should have absolutely zero excuse. You should know that Q is not of God. It's absolutely obvious. If you haven't figured that out, then you need to read your Bible. it's obvious. It's very obvious. If you aren't a Christian, then obviously you have to take a different understanding. But so what's going to happen in America? I mean, you got to think about logically. If you're following Q and you're not religious or you're not Christian, so it's still fairly obvious that things aren't good. Just based on, look how big the conspiracy is, and look what the end result of this is going to be. I mean, Q has said this is the end of the Democratic Party. This is the end of the mainstream media. Well, if you don't have a Democratic Party, then you have a totalitarian government. If you don't have a mainstream media, then who controls the information? Well, it's going to be the Q people, because you've spent the last 2 years or so manufacturing proofs and all this, an ideology, let's say. An ideology has been manufactured, and there are however many people who are behind it, and you've got everything set up. It's all censored at the moment. It's been censored off Reddit and censored off. I think you might be getting a few things through on Twitter, and there's people on YouTube who've been posting videos for ages, and they're there. They don't come up in search results that easily, but it's all there. It's all this new ideology, which happens to be a Luciferian ideology, which I might go into a bit later on. But it's not a good thing that's happening. There's going to be a totalitarian government, and Trump is going to be the head of the government, and that's it's a stated aim of the Q movement. It's going to be a result. No Democratic Party. A lot of the Republicans are going, and it's not that they aren't corrupt. They are corrupt. Both sides are corrupt. But it doesn't change the fact that you're going to have a totalitarian government, and you're going to have a military dictatorship, because you've got the crisis at the border, and it is a problem. It is a problem. There's a lot of people coming across that border, and a lot of them aren't good. But you're going to have a military on the border, and then you're going to have when all this stuff happens, you're going to have how many thousand people get arrested all at once? It's going to be chaos. And you have these revelations of all these big things happening, and basically the leaders of the left, and not saying they're not corrupt, they are corrupt, but they're going to get arrested. So you're going to have half the country who are completely blindsided by what's going on. You're going to have the revelations of this massive corruption, which has been hitherto hidden from most people, but there's a large number of people who have been making all these proofs about very awful things. I mean, you've got the all the child abuse and stuff that's going on, and the what's it called, the Monarch program, and the trauma-based mind control, and all of their really evil stuff. I mean, can you imagine if you were on the left side of politics, even on the right side of politics, but just imagine how it's going to feel when all of this stuff comes out. It's going to destroy you, and you're going to be grasping for what is real, what's going on. Everything that you thought was real has been taken away from you, and now what do you believe? Well, you've got the Q movement, and they are really prepared to sell you on this particular ideology and this particular things that have been happening. And it's not wrong that there's corruption. It's not, as I've said, there's all the child trafficking, all this stuff. It's bad, but as I said, also it's the new Hegelian dialectic. It's bad people on both sides. Trump is not a good person. He has said that he's a Mason, a Freemason. And the Freemasons, who is their god? Oh, it's Lucifer and Apollyon, the angel of the bottomless pit. So you're not winning. It kind of is like Germany. Not that you're going to get Nazis. There's not going to be Nazis in control, exactly. But, there's two bad sides. The communists on one side, the left are kind of communist at the moment. Well, that's not good. That doesn't mean that the other side is good. There's only one way. There's only one way. And if you're a Christian, you know what way that is. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. Jesus. It's the only way. So what's going to happen is, all this revelation, and I don't know what's going to happen to kick this off, but you do know that it's going to be a big event. It's going to be some big event, and it's going to kick all this off. You're going to get the military coming and arresting a lot of people, and you're going to get, the mainstream media is going to go down, the Democratic Party is going to disappear, and it's going to be complete chaos. And who's going to be in control? Well, Donald Trump and his people are going to be in control, and or should say the people who are controlling Trump, because he's just a puppet too, you know. You know that, right? And every single president thus far has been a puppet. What makes you think that Trump is any different? So that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a totalitarian dictatorship. And you might like the dictator. You might think that Donald Trump is a good guy. I don't think he is, but you might think so. But that's what you're going to have. You're going to have a totalitarian dictatorship in America, and it's going to be military involved. And that's what you're going to have. So yeah, be careful of the Q movement. So this is, I think, probably a good place to end this video. I'm going to do a few more videos on a few other topics, because this goes way deeper than just QAnon. QAnon is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other things, you know, aliens and Antarctica and mind control and all sorts of other things that are going on. Religion, the Babylonian religions and the Masons and Apollyon and all sorts of other things. But I'll leave it here and I'll talk about some other stuff coming up.